Hello, my name is Michelle, and I'm the founder of MSW Helper, which is a resource hub for people who are applying to Master of Social Work programs. And today we are going to be talking about how to complete your Rutgers MSW personal statement. The personal statement is one of the most important parts of any MSW application. And that's because schools of social work typically use the personal statement to assess your critical thinking skills and your potential for the program. Things like your GPA and your resume only provide so much information, but your personal statement allows you to dive deeper and show the admissions committee who you are as a person and as a potential social worker. The problem is that the personal statement is so different from the typical essay or research paper that you're probably used to writing. So it can be very overwhelming and difficult to try to, write the personal statement. I remember when I applied to my MSW, I always considered myself to be a strong writer, but because the personal statement was so different, I had questions about whether the approaches that I was taking in my personal statement was actually what schools of social work were looking for. And at the time when I applied, there were no resources like MSW Helper that existed that really dove deep into some of the questions that I had. So my mission is to really bridge that gap and take the prompts that schools provide and really give you some structure and some guidance onto how to answer the questions in a compelling way that shows the admissions committee who you are. So Rutgers University provides 5 prompts for MSW applicants to answer in a narrative format. The personal statement must be typed and be between 750 to 1,000 words total. Something that I recommend doing is formatting your personal statement in APA formatting. This is the formatting structure that we use in the field of social work. So by formatting your personal statement and treating it like a paper for a school, it kind of subliminally tells the reader that you have those academic writing skills. This is a really simple thing to do that adds a lot of professionalism to your personal statement. So to format your personal statement, I would recommend doing things like double spacing your work, using Times New Roman, 12-point font, adding page numbers, adding a reference page if relevant, and then adding an APA style title page as well. Now, the school does not explicitly state that you need to write an APA, so definitely use discretion when implementing that. And, that is ultimately your choice, how you decide to format your personal statement. The other big thing that I recommend doing is structuring your personal statement by using headings that align with the prompts. I know the application says to write in a narrative format. I have found that personal statements are a lot easier to read when you break up the prompts into separate headings and then label them. That really gives the reader the opportunity to see that you did indeed answer all of the questions, and it makes it really easy for them to skim through and find all of your answers, which I think is super important to do to make it easy, especially since most admissions committees are reading hundreds of personal statements every application season. So before you begin answering the prompts for Rutgers MSW personal statement, I recommend brainstorming. The reason I recommend doing this is because I find there's quite a bit of overlap between the prompts that the school is asking for. So I think it's really important to have an idea of your mission and what you are hoping to do as a social worker, and to really have a sense of what you want to talk about before you start writing. This is going to make it a lot easier when you get to the prompts to break it down and create like a cohesive narrative. So here are some questions to ask yourself as you are starting to think through this. Why are you interested in becoming a social worker? What relevant personal, volunteer, academic, and personal experiences informed your decision to pursue social work? What is your goal? What kind of work would you like to do as a social worker? And why are you choosing Rutgers MSW program in particular? In the description of this video, I'm going to include our personal statement template that will help you work through these questions and develop a bit of a framework for your personal statement. All right, let's dive into the prompts. I'm only going to go through prompts 1 through 4 because question 5 is only going to apply to a select few. So I think question 1 through 4 will probably be the most relevant for most of you. All right, prompt 1. What are your reasons for applying to Rutgers University School of Social Work? Discuss how your personal values, professional and/or community experiences have affected your decision. So Rutgers University asks this question because they want you to show alignment between what the school can offer and your goals as a social worker. So when it comes to responding to this prompt, I recommend starting with your why. Why are you choosing a career in social work, and what are your goals? One big mistake that I often see in this part of the personal statement is applicants will be very vague and they'll say, I want to become a social worker because I want to help people. The problem with that is that it's a very vague answer that literally anybody could write. And so it doesn't really offer a compelling reason to accept you to the program. So instead, you want to get really specific about why you're choosing social work and what your goals are as a social worker. What kind of work do you want to do? What motivated you to make a career change or to continue your education to become a social worker? The other important part of this question is highlighting your values and linking that back to Rutgers MSW program. They really want to know, why are you choosing this program out of hundreds of others? They really want to see that their program aligns with your goals as a social worker. So it's important to think about, what values and mission and offerings and specializations does Rutgers offer? And how is that connected to your goals as a social worker? Why are you choosing their program in particular? The other big thing that you really want to do in the personal statement is create cohesion throughout the different prompts. So by starting by talking about your why, that's going to set you up to answer all of the other prompts, which we'll get into in a bit. But another big mistake that I see in the personal statement is applicants will say that, I have a goal in this specific area. And then when it comes to the social issue, which you'll see more about in prompt 2, they'll talk about something totally different. Schools really like to see that you have a specific area of interest and that you are going to address a specific social work issue. Okay, so that leads us into prompt 2. Select and describe a social problem of concern to you and discuss how you believe professional social workers can help alleviate this issue. So Rutgers University asks this question to assess your understanding of social work perspectives and values, and to understand how you can fill a unique gap as a social worker. So again, I would get very specific about a social issue, ideally one that has to do with your own goals. I find that it's much stronger to get specific than to talk about a general social issue. So for example, instead of just talking about housing as a social issue, get more specific. Maybe you want to talk about the housing challenges faced by women who have recently experienced or left a domestic violence situation. And then you can talk about some of the economic factors and the barriers that exist specifically for women who are leaving domestic violence situations. The best way to select a social issue is to really reflect on some of your insights and experiences. So this can come from your professional, your academic, or sometimes even your personal experiences. So maybe as an applicant, you worked at a women's shelter, and that is where you realized that your clients who had recently left a domestic violence situation were having trouble securing housing after leaving. And that insight is part of your motivation for pursuing social work. You want to get a Master of Social Work degree so that you can support that population in a macro capacity. The other important thing to do is to take that insight or that experience that motivated you to get a Master of Social Work and connect that insight to the bigger picture. So maybe that applicant realized some of the challenges faced by women who are leaving domestic violence situations within the context of her workplace. Can she connect that to the bigger picture with research to show that, this is not something that's isolated to her workplace. This is an overarching social issue that needs to be addressed. And then that will lead you to talking about what the role of social work could be in addressing that issue. By taking this approach of getting hyper specific and talking about your insights and experiences and how that's connected to your goals, you're going to show the admissions committee that not only is there a need for social workers in your area of interest, but you have the background, the skills, and the insights to be the person to fill that gap and address that social issue. And that creates a really compelling reason to accept you to the program, because the school will be able to see, okay, yeah, by accepting you to the program, I can see how you are going to make a meaningful contribution to the field. And this is a lot stronger than simply picking a overarching social issue at random. I know it can be tricky to, think about all of your experiences and kind of build out this framework. So at MSW Helper, we do offer one-to-one consultation sessions where we can go through all of your experiences, talk about your goals, and help you create those connections and formulate a social issue that is related to your background and your goals. All right, prompt 3. What skills and strengths would you gain from Rutgers University School of Social Work that would help you address the problem you described in question 2? So Rutgers University is likely asking this question to assess your capacity for long-term growth as a professional social worker and to once again gain an understanding of how the Rutgers MSW program can support you in growing professionally and meeting your long-term goals. So to answer this prompt, I would recommend starting by reflecting on your current strengths and the gaps in knowledge that you have. What do you bring to the program that would be a beneficial perspective? And what gaps in knowledge exist that Rutgers would be able to support you with? So you want to get specific about specific factors that Rutgers can bring in to help you in meeting your goals. So, think about what courses do they offer? What specializations do they have? Are there any professors who do research in your area of interest? Is the location strategic? Is the course format strategic for you meeting your goals? What placement opportunities are available? You really want to get specific about why this program is an amazing fit for you and your goals. Then you want to connect the skills that you can gain through Rutgers to your social issue. So maybe, that person who is interested in supporting women who are leaving domestic violence situations is interested in Rutgers because there is a specialization on working with children and families, and there are specific courses about trauma that would be very beneficial in their work. I don't know if that's true. I just made that up, but I would definitely look at specific factors of what Rutgers can offer and how it can fill some of your knowledge gaps and help you meet your long-term goals as a social worker. And then prompt 4, After carefully reviewing the program requirements, please describe how you will manage to fulfill the specific program requirements while balancing other life commitments. So the reason that schools ask this question is because graduate school is demanding. Admissions committees ask about your ability to meet the demands of graduate school because they want to understand whether you have the time management skills needed to meet the demands of the program. So I would definitely talk about time management. How are you going to navigate the many responsibilities that you're going to have in grad school with things like, classes, placement, potentially work, potentially family responsibilities? If you are currently working full time, I think it's really important to talk about what your plan is in graduate school. Will you be stepping away from work? Will you be dropping down to part time? How will you be managing your other commitments that you have? I think it's also important to recognize that if you are applying to a master's degree, then you have experienced the time management skills needed to thrive in school before. So, talk about how did you do it before? How did you get through past challenges? How did you grow before? If you had areas or times where you maybe struggled with time management, how have you developed your skill set since then? It's also important to talk about how you will mitigate challenges and other commitments. The truth is, things may come up, and depending on your situation, you may be able to forecast some challenges that may arise. So it's important to think about, okay, if that happens, how will I get through that? What resources will I leverage? What supports will I access? And then self-care is another important area to touch on. It's a really important social work skill to be able to practice self-care. So I think that by mentioning it in your application, you are setting yourself up to show how you are building your self-care skills and how that will carry forward in your social work career. But yeah, basically with this question, schools just want to know that you have a concrete plan and that you are in a position to be able to complete the demands of grad school. Okay, so that's our brief overview of how to complete Rutgers University MSW personal statement. I hope this was helpful. And if you are in the process of applying, I encourage you to visit mswhelper.com, where we have other videos just like this one. We have a community of applicants who are also applying that you can get support from. And then we also offer support with the application process. So we do things like personal statement editing, one-to-one consultations, and other services to help you apply to your Master of Social Work with confidence.